This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, you and I together are going to be racing. We're going to be trying to speed down the street, trying to be the first one to get to the finish line. The trick is, you and I are both driving together the same kart. I might have the speed, you have the brakes and turn, and we can't communicate. Today, we're talking about Crazy Karts. It's a game for 3 to 8 players, teams racing. Let's take a look. I'll show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a team game. At the beginning of the game, each team gets to pick their faction, and they each get a board that they'll be hiding things behind, like these are the mummies, and they also get cards that have the mummies on them. On the backside, they all have these fun things written there, like living is for sissies, winning is for mummies, be careful with matches, drive fast, your mummy is watching, and all the different factions have, both boards have different things written on them that are cool and fun. You could be the Green Goblins, you could be the Dwarven Cart, or maybe the elves. So we have a 3-team game set up, and there's 2 races. There's first a qualifying race and then the final race. During the qualifying race, these are set in random spots depending on how many players are playing and facing in specific spots. And after the qualifying race, the leader gets to pick, and then the rest are random. Now, in addition to the starting board here, there's 2 other boards placed for the qualifying race. All the boards are double-sided. There's 4 other ones that basically, you randomly choose which board and randomly choose which side, and some of them are going to have obstacles and power-ups to get through. You're trying to get to the other end. Now, one of the teammates is going to be using the brakes, the turning, and the charging through the power-ups, and using 6 cards of that faction. While the other player uses the speed, shooting, repairs, and they keep track of the speed and the damage, and they have their 6 cards. Now each of the teammates sit across from each other with their boards behind here. There's no talking, or there's no letting the other player know in any way, shape, or form which card you're playing. You can't talk even though you're both controlling the same card. Now at the same time, everyone is going to collect any cards they may have played in a previous round. They're going to shuffle their deck up, and then everyone's going to start at the same time. Depending on your speed, that's how many cards you're going to draw. And in this case, if we're going slow, we get a lot of options because we're going slow. 6 cards for 1. You can draw all of them with 0-1 speed, but as you're going faster, you have less time to react, so you only get to play 1 card if you're going 6, for example. So in this case, we're going 0. We'll draw all 6 cards, and then we're going to place them face up on any of these places. Now, this is for sort of the advanced version. We'll go over that later. But one of these 4 stalls, he's going to be placing these 6 cards if he wants. So let's say I place these cards face up here. Now, depending on how many wheels there are, this card is worth 1 point towards this action and 3 points towards this action and such. Once I know my cards, the first team to complete all theirs can then start to count to 5 at a reasonable pace. Once that team's counted to 5, everyone else has to stop placing cards. Then we start resolving these in number order. First, we look at initiative. The amount of points or wheels on here will tell us who goes first. Whoever has the most wheels will go first in all the other actions this round. If there's tie, the player closest to the finish line goes first. If there's still tie, you do rock, paper, scissors per the rules. Then we'd go to number 2, which is the other player's board, and this is every faction has a special ability that's different. You have to spend 3 wheels to use the lasso, and the mummies use the lasso. They basically pull the closest card to them 1 space closer to them. If they're equal distances, you can choose which one to pull. In this case, we started the race, so this wouldn't have done much, but I'm just showing you how this would have needed 3 to activate this, or 3 ones would have done it as well. In order, people would resolve that. In a previous round, you may have received a power-up from the board or different ways. And if you did this, you could have activated it by putting a card of what this says. So this cost me 1. I would have had to have put 1 here. And this allows me to make an enemy cart 2 faster. So it gives them it messes their plans up. But these power-ups can do different things. Number 4 is for export drivers only. If you are going to use these, you shuffle them all up and you randomly give people things. For example, you pay 1 wheel to use this, and it's a booster. You take 2 power-ups instead of 1. When you have 10 power. We'll get to that in just a moment. But basically, these different things help you in different ways for the advanced game. Now, number 5 is the brake. Let's say we were up here. However many wheels I put there, that's how many times this would come down and adjust my speed down from the brake. And then 6, we would add up the wheels, and that's how much we would speed up. So if I put 3 wheels there, 1, 2, 3, we'd be at 4 right now. And at this point, everyone is going to move in initiative order the amount of spaces of whatever their speed is at. So the mummies are yellow, and I go, let's just say I was going 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, you can't turn yet, you're just going in the direction. Now, if for some reason I was supposed to be going off of it and hitting a wall, you would actually stop. For example, if for some reason I was pointing this way and going here, I would have to stop and I would hit the wall, and I would take as many damage tokens as my speed. So essentially my damage would have gone 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's the damage there, and then you would go to 0 because basically you hit the wall and you stopped. Now this just means that until this damage is repaired, I can't go faster than a 3. Now if you ever enter a spot where there is an obstacle, you stop immediately no matter what. Your turn's going to end, and you will do whatever it says. Many of these are rocks. These are double-sided. And this just says take damage equal to your speed, then reduce speed to 0. That's the same as hitting a wall. Some of these do different things. Like if you hit this to apply a troll, you would take 3 damage and add 3 speed, and then you would discard this, but that would be the end of your turn. This one is the ice rink. Toss the tile, turn left or right according to the results. So you would either turn left or right depending on which way that this thing is pointing. Now if you ever run into a power-up, you just pick it up. This is those power-ups I showed you earlier that you can use as one of your actions on a future round. Now if when moving you're supposed to go far, but there's someone there, you just stop immediately after hitting that car regardless of how far, and you both take 1 thing of damage, but you don't adjust your speed. If this player was against the wall when you hit them, then this player would hit the wall and they would go to a speed of 0, but you both take a damage. If there's a bunch of carts and this person is supposed to move this way, they all get bumped. The first and last take 1 damage. Any carts in the middle, there could be more than 1, all take 1 additional damage. If now I had gone this way and they can't be pushed because of a wall, essentially anybody except the ramming cart has to take an additional damage. Also, if they get pushed into an obstacle or a power-up, you resolve those as normal. Now then we go to the turn, number 7. Now to use the turn, you have to have enough wheels on here to equal your speed or have more. So essentially you need more turning power than your speed, or at least equal to. If you do have a turn that's equal to your speed or higher, you get to turn it 1 hex going right or left. Then we resolve shoot. For every wheel here, you get to shoot 1 space away at an enemy. So if I had 2, I could have gone and shot this guy or this guy, because you can choose to go around somebody. It doesn't have to go in a straight line. You can move around. It goes through obstacles and power-ups. And so when you hit this person, they have to take damage cards. And when you take a damage card, you just take 1 of them, and some of them might do nothing. So close, no effect. Some of them might do things like target puts this card on your special action. Using it costs 2 more. So to do your special thing, it costs 2 more. And this one, the same thing for turning. For turning right, it costs 2 more. So it just messes with your card as it gets damaged. Now charging, for each power you put there, you move this up. Once it gets up to 10, you drop it back to 0. If there was more left over, you would continue to move up. And you would draw a power-up card from the top of the pile and keep it behind you. You can't even tell your teammate what this does. You keep it at something that you can use later in your power-up section in a future round. And number 10, you would do repair. So any amount of power, for every power you put there, you would move that damage up and fix your damage. Now the first team to go off the end of the finish line is the winner. If anybody else goes off that line that round, they're considered to be in 2nd and 3rd place. Otherwise, if no one else does it that round, they're the only winner. Now the winner will take 2 random upgrades. If anyone came in 2nd, they could take 1 random upgrade. And these things do different cool things. For example, this is a shield. So we just finished the qualifying round. We're getting ready to go on to the main race. Each time you get a damage, you get 1 damage less during this race. So then there's this thing, which is iron legs. You may move 1 additional space during the race. So it's one of these things that you can kind of use 1 time during the race. Some of these. Big Bertha, your cannon range is increased by 2 during the race. Or maybe, I love this one, the trumpet, plus 1 initiative during the race, because hey, the trumpet to be first. So those are different things that you can use, and you can decide when to use them. Now everyone gets to keep their power up that they kept from the qualifying race and where their power was, and then the winning team gets to remove a combination of 3 damage points. That's a combination of the damage cards or the actual damage on their speed. The 2nd place team can remove 2 damages, and the 3rd place and 4th place can remove 1. Then we go to the main race. Now for the main race, as I mentioned at the beginning, you would set them up with the first, the winner gets to pick his spot for the amount of players, the other ones are random, and then these boards would get put back in the stack, you'd reshuffle, and instead of having 2 extra boards, you'd have 3 extra boards, everyone also switches controls. If you were doing the power up before, you're swapping to the other side of your cart for the real race, and then whoever wins that one is the winner. I told you I'd talk about the other special abilities. The Dwarven guys are all about ramming. When they go into an obstacle, essentially they take a damage and remove the obstacle without suffering any other effects from it. So the obstacles don't do them any bad. The Elves, essentially they can grab power-ups from a hex next to them. And the Goblins can actually turn before they go through the speed, before it moves. So that's huge for the Goblins. Now, if you're playing with an odd number of players, the person that's by himself will be the lone wolf. He gets his own board, his own cards. He have both boards basically together in one. Now, the card distribution's a little different, so he'll play a little different. Also, there's what's called malfunctions and buffs. At the beginning of every round, he'll take one of these and flip it over. This basically says that I cannot turn this turn right here. And this is a buff, meaning, hey, I can use this gives me one wheel towards the power-up. If I don't do anything, I can use this, or I can add to this like normal by playing cards, or I don't have to use this. If it happens to be on the same one, the blocked takes this one out. You just can't use it. Once all these are used, you shuffle them up and do 2 piles again. That's pretty much how you play the Lone Wolf. Now, when I recently heard about this game, I was super excited because I thought, oh wow, this is like Mario Kart, the board game. And I love Mario Kart growing up. Even the recent versions of it are awesome. It's a ton of fun. You're going around, zaniness, beating people in a race, throwing different things, shooting them, having fun, dropping banana peels, stuff like that. And this game has a lot of that crazy aspects, and I think they're trying to capture that in this. Let me first talk about the things I liked about the game. The idea itself is just awesome. You're in the cart together, you can't talk, one's doing the brakes and the turning, one's doing the speed and the shooting and other things, and just crazy things are gonna happen, right? Now, the idea is awesome, and the artwork and the components and the production value are amazing. I showed you in the overview the different factions and their shields and the cool things they say, and just they did an amazing job of creating fun-looking teams that you're going to want to be one or the other, and making a fun experience out of just the production and the artwork value of it. Now, unfortunately for me, that's about where the things I like with this game end. I really wanted to love this game. The game really excels on crazy things happening between you and your partner, crazy things happening on the board between interacting with the different tiles that are out there, the power-ups, and the other carts. Now, with the most interaction, you have the most carts out there, 4, and but when you have that many players of 8, it really bogs down quite a bit. So I think the strength of the game ends up being one of the weaknesses of the game, and with less carts, sure, you're still having that same interaction with the other player, but then there's not as much with each other on the board, and so that part of the game sort of comes down. Now, so the game itself, you are resolving 10 things, up to 10 things, at a time, depending on which teams chose what. And this is a racing game. It's supposed to feel like a race. I want to get to the end the fastest. And unfortunately, it felt like the slowest race I've ever played. And not just because the gameplay is slow, but resolving all those, each one doesn't take that much time. But when you're resolving 10 items on, 3 or 4 carts, and you're doing it every turn, it just became sort of like a slog. And granted, each one's not that long, but again, over the course of the time, it felt like the game was dragging. Even once you know what you're doing, it still didn't really feel like a race. And the game is a racing game. It's got program movement, and I like program games. Walk the Plank comes to mind, a simple little programming game where you play stuff and chaotic things happen. And I didn't really mind the chaos here. That's part of the lure and part of the love of what they're trying to bring you. Hence, the Mario Kart zaniness. And it is quite chaotic and a little bit random, but that's sort of what the fun is. And I typically like that style of game, so that's not the reason why I didn't like it. It just didn't come together it didn't feel like a well-polished. Now, I read the blog from Portal Games and Ignacy Cevicek saying when they got this gen, they played it, they knew they had something here, but they had to do a lot of development to really polish it up and make it look good and feel right. And I feel like this game really should have still been streamlined quite a bit more. It's just a little too fiddly, a little too, the feeling I get was like I almost couldn't wait for the race to be over, because it was just slogging along one turn at a time, going here, okay, let's turn, and you're just going through each of these bits, and it just didn't feel right. So unfortunately, I don't think they were able to capture the feeling of that Mario Kart, of racing around in a fast way and doing these crazy things where all these steps kind of slogged the game down. And it's sad that at the end of the night, after you've played this, and you're looking at the groups that you've played it with, and And the most fun moments you can recap are the moments where you're doing rocks, paper, scissors for a tied initiative. And hey, remember that 5-round rocks, paper, scissors we had to do the initiative that we all went crazy for? It's sad when that was like the best part of the game for us. So unfortunately, this is a pass for me. It still might be something you want to check out. It's a great idea. I just wish it just missed. I think this could have been amazing, but I think just the technicalities of going through 10 things each turn for all the carts and different people and different initiatives and different orders every turn, it's just a little too fiddly, unfortunately. And that's what I think about Crazy Karts.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.